as well as the materials that were used for its construction. A lot of the buildings were made with, and so when it's time to repair, we need to get similar stone or very, of course, the same one. If before it was protected by tiles, in the future it has to remain with the same amount of tiles. That cannot be changed as well. The construction going on right now inside the city is for a brand new metropolitan line, 19th century. In that war, the city of Porto was the main stage, being surrounded by the enemy troops of Islam. The war ended in 1834 in the south of Portugal. This is pink fences. That is that stone building, the train station of São Bento. A train station that was built in 1897, and that inside is a court with more than 22,000 tiles in white and blue colors, which shows the different moments in the history of It is possible to go inside the train station through the side. You have to go around the construction. The train station is still operating. It was built in 1903, and it was a coffee shop where it has, of course, wait. As we're moving up here, the Sada Bandeira, the market is right inside. The market, which is open throughout the week from Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. And one of the best places you can go to try it is right here at the left, the which also has a partnership with one of the famous coffee brands in Portugal called Delta, that allows you, of course, to drink coffee from Southern Africa.
Santa Catarina.
Portugal. The tiles originally came to the Iberian Peninsula in the 8th century during the Moors invasions of 711. The Portuguese only picked up the tiles around the end of the 14th century. They went to the southern part of Spain and caught the tiles in Seville. Also very good for insulation. Here we have a lot of shops that allow you to do that, a lot of good restaurants, with the most famous one being those three over there attached, Santiago, Guedes, and Santa Francesinha. Those are the three best ones in this area to try that dish. And try to impress his girlfriend by creating a big dish, which was known in France as a croque monsieur. He used every single material that he had in his kitchen to do that dish, which eventually created the dish called Francesinha, which a translation means little French girl. That's where the name comes from. From the city, which is where the Cathedral of Porto is located. Universities wanted to keep that tradition in order to become, of course, the scholars use it for. Nowadays, by in just a second. In this case, the ruler of the city, Bishop Hugo, which was granted this land by the mother of the future-to-be first king of Portugal, Afonso Henriques, and the name of the mother was Teresa. Being those the Roman, Gothic, Baroque, and Rococo. It's right here on the right, the cathedral of the city. Right now they are just cleaning up the granite stone so it can look a little bit younger, because granite with time which stands a lot dark is because it's receiving a lot of pollution, so they're now cleaning up everything. The entry to the cathedral is €3 per person. You have to pay a lot more for that. You have the whole city right there. victorious all the way here towards the center of the city of Porto to conquer it against the Moors. That conquering came in 868. If you descend here the street on the right, you gain access to the high point of the bridge where you can actually pass in foot to the other side of the river. That is the Louise Bridge, of course. Used as a monastery until the middle part of the 19th century. Shortly after the civil war of the country, where Porto was victorious, the church was kicked out of Porto. Because in the war, the church decided to take sides and support the enemy of the city. So the consequence of losing the war was getting expelled from Porto. The monastery then was used half in the military, where it has still the military base, and the other half all tile shop, where people can go in there and buy some tiles if they want, which store. And as I said before, we're going to revisit the square, but this time we're really going to go through it. We can see here the building at the left, which is called the... It was built in the last part of the 18th century with the neoclassical style of architecture. And here on the right, you have the fair, where the people sell handcraft items like clothing, cork, ceramics, wine. Century with Baroque style of architecture. And outside is the court with more than 11,000 tiles, which were painted by the same artist that before painted the inside of the train station. George Culasso is its maker, of course. You don't have to pay anything to go inside. And it's a very beautiful one, I might add.
Very beautiful.
Right there on the right, and those are white umbrellas. Majestic coffee shop. Theater ahead is called the Rivoli Theater. It was built and still today is used, but for more commercial style theater. Part of the avenue, we have there the City Hall of Porto. It took 37 years to complete, and it ended in 1957. The architectural styles that were used for its construction was the manualist of the 15th century, mixed with classical and neoclassical, making it a lot older in homage to the military men who formed the 4th Corporation of Firefighters in the city. That man right there came from Fernandes. And just at the end of this square is where we have the oldest bakery shop in the city, which is called the Ribeiro Bakery. That bakery has been working since 1878. Sundays as well, this one here, Ribeiro Bakery. Then over the courses in the world studied architecture and history. Inside the building, you have the Museum of Natural History as well. And then here on the right, we have the two churches which were made side by side, which are the churches of Carmo and Carmo. By Catholic law and Catholic standards, they could not share a wall. That was illegal. So when they built the two churches, they were really forced to build them separately. In the middle part of the 18th century, they discovered the loophole in the law, which they could actually add something in the middle to put them both together, except only a wall. They put a building in the middle, which is known as the Hidden House, the smallest house in the city. With the Hidden House, they are no longer sharing a wall, but yes, they're sharing a building. The house, that was the home of a lot of people, a lot of painters and sculptors that worked for the order. They were actually the home of people who worked at the hospital of Carmo, which was behind the two churches before. Century, and still today is used for people to go and course, visit their family members or family friends who's resting or recovering from illness or surgery. And it's also when you have a doctor appointment, in this case a family doctor appointment, you can come, of course, and visit your family doctor. It was here in these two white doors on the right where the first University of Medicine was made in the city. In 1998, we expanded the hospital by adding the modern part behind it, which where people can go to do surgeries, visit the specialized doctor, or go to the emergency. The tree is no longer sick, but for the rest of their life, they're going to maintain this small shape, as you see. Bizarre, but unique in some way. Century. These big stone pillars that were made, of course, to show the power and authority of the dictatorship against the opposition, so that nobody would oppose the dictatorship. Which still function as a courthouse, but a courthouse of relations, and has a museum inside that allows you to see the history about conflict and how the conflicts were resolved. This statue here on the right is called the Statue of Justice, also built in 1961, and was made, of course, to show how the dictatorship controlled justice. Salazar said that in order for justice to function in Portugal, it could never be impartial. Since it could never be impartial, the scales were no longer used for anything. That's why they are on her hands instead of being in the air in the interior. And the eyes are also not covered like they should be, because the dictator's eyes are never closed. So this whole statue was made to show people how everything was controlled. It was used up until 1974 as a prison, before it transformed itself into a museum of photography in 1997, which is where it is right now. And the other building on the left, where we started, is the Clarinos Tower, which was built in 1763 by the Italian artist and architect named Niccolo Nazzoni, which came from the old Tuscany, and built that in Baroque style. 75 meters of height, making it the biggest tower in the whole city, and inside the tower a big staircase of 225 steps that allows people to go from the bottom all the way towards the top of it. On the top you see a beautiful view of the city of Porto, the river Douro, and the city across the river called Gaia. Of course, that tower is also what we call the ex-libris of the city, which is the symbol of the city. Whenever you search Porto, you always look for that tower, and the bridge, of course. The tower solution was built the most amount of houses possible in small spaces, which led to these small houses. They're not very big in width, but they are very tall and very long. Here we have a wonderful viewpoint where it's possible. Which is actually where I'm going to do a short stop in order we can go down there and take some pictures. This down there, or the Victorian neighborhood here behind the buildings. All of the old gateway The neighborhood down there, it's called Miragaia, and that was actually the first St. John's, which is St. John's of Sagahun, hence the name New St. John's. Of the building. And the statue of this square on the right represents the first Portuguese navigator, Henry the Navigator, right there at the center of that square.